This is Ken Beachy. I am an avid whitetail hunter. I enjoy archery a lot. And in the fall of 2016, a really nice 10-pointer kept showing up on video. They were all nighttime shots, but he was the best deer that I had on my radar that year. And truth be told, I would have shot him that year if I could have, but that didn't happen. And the story goes on into the next couple of years, and we'll tell it here.
I'm Riley Searin, and this is kind of the story where our lives kind of cross paths. This story consists of almost 6 years of kind of history back and forth, and we're here to tell you about it.
I was looking for this buck in 2017 then, because he was just the best buck I'd had the year before. And here in about October, all of a sudden one night I get a video of him walking right past one of my cameras, and I could just see everything, and he was just a really nice big deer. 5 minutes later, he walked past the camera going away, and he was just amazing. I was very excited about the upcoming season, and all my energy went toward trying to figure out where he was. I had my cameras out, and I kept checking on those. Who knows, I probably checked them too often, but it didn't seem to run him off. So in 2017, as I was getting into the rut, on a hunch, I decided to put up a ground blind and watch a fence row where I'd been getting pictures of him coming out into an alfalfa field. And I sat there for about only 10 minutes one night, and when I looked up, there he was at about 100 yards, and he was backlit against the sky. And I got my binoculars up and really got a good look at him, and then he walked over the hill. I was really excited because that was the first time that I saw him in person. But that made it even more real to me that he actually was there, and I was working hard to get a shot at him. I decided it was time to give this deer a name, and I decided Louis the Great would be fitting, because until that day, that had been the biggest deer that I'd ever had a chance to hunt and really focus on and try to match wits with. I thought I was pretty close to his bedding area, his core, because of how many pictures that I was able to get. But it was a guessing game as to how I might intercept him. So after the season, I was talking with my neighbor and telling him about this deer that I was hunting, and he mentioned that his dog had brought a really nice shed antler in. So I asked him if I could see him. And sure enough, this was the antler from the deer that I was hunting, and I was very excited. So I took, since his dog had been chewing on this for about a month, I took the dog another antler to chew on, and my neighbor was kind enough to give me this one to keep, which I was very pleased about.
The ultimate prize a neighbor could give you.
That's right. That is right.
Oh, so kind of keep rolling on with 2017. This is kind of where I come into the story with my history of Louis the Great. My best friend and I got permission to shed hunt a farm just 3/4 mile away from where the dog had actually picked up this other shed. So we're shed hunting 2017, 3/4 mile away, and we stumble upon this shed. And we're looking at it, we're debating if the shed's from this year or if the shed's from the year before. Backside's nice, front side's a little bit faded, and a tractor had actually ran it over and shoved it down into some sticks and some leaves as well. And my mind was kind of running and racing, trying to figure out maybe how old this shed was. And I thought back to a picture that a kid had sent me of a deer 4 months prior of December of 2017. And it's a picture of this deer standing in this kid's backyard. And he took the picture with his professional, he's a photographer, with his actual camera, just out the back porch. It was during rut, and my brother-in-law actually asked me, hey, did you see this picture that this kid took of this giant buck in his backyard close to where I grew up hunting in high school? And I was like, no, I haven't. So I messaged the kid on Facebook and said, hey, did you happen to take a picture of a nice buck in your backyard? And sure enough, he sends me a picture of what I thought was this deer. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, all right, this shed is from this year. He must have dropped it early, thinking that this was his 2017 shed. But until we met Ken and kind of put stories together, this is actually the shed from 2016, and it had been laying there for a year, and we just happened to stumble upon it. And it was the only shed we found. Yeah. And now we have 2017, 2016 laying next to each other, and I'm gonna bring it back over to you, Ken.
Okay. 2018. I was pretty sure this buck was still alive, and nobody had shot a big deer the year before, at least, and that I found out about. And in October of 2018, at noon, this buck came through my small acreage, and I could not believe it. I was so excited. I knew it was the same deer, but man, now he had a drop tine. And I got a still photo of that passed through my timber and a video, and it really gave me a good picture of how much this deer had blown up, and I was super excited about the season coming up. So I worked hard at figuring out how to kill him, and I did some all-day hunts on my property. But it was a pretty cold fall, and I, on November 9th, I hunted all day, and it was going to snow that night, and that should have been my cue to make sure I was out there the next day. But I went to work the next day and didn't go out to check cameras till the afternoon, and oh my goodness, I got a video of him 20 yards from my tree stand. And it was a beautiful video, but sad to say, I was kind of disappointed that I'd missed it. So I got myself a heater bodysuit and made myself get back out there and get after it some more.
There's a reason these world-class whitetails kind of know if you're hunting there, if you're not there, right?
That's right. So I still kept getting pictures the week of the rut. I kept checking my cameras, and toward the end of the week, I could tell that he was moving slower, and I didn't actually give it a lot of thought until Riley and I were comparing notes here recently. But the last pictures that I got of this deer, he was walking slow, his back was hunched up, and it's almost like he either got sick or he had an injury, and we didn't know what it was. But November 13th at 10:30 at night, he walked past my camera, he looked over, he probably saw the LEDs, and then he just kept on walking, and it was snowing that night. So those were the last pictures I got of him. I did not get anything else in 2018. Obviously, I didn't see him next year. None in 2019, none in 2020.
No sheds.
No sheds.
No dogs ever came up with any sheds.
Nope. And everything, the story just went quiet for a couple of years. And last fall, which is November 2021, I got a rumor from a friend that a realtor had found a 200 class deer on a neighboring farm that had been up for sale. So I want Riley to tell that story.
Yep, so I'm a land broker by trade. So a property that I used to hunt and kind of cut my teeth on in high school, the landowner was moving back down to Florida, gave me the opportunity to sell the farm. So we listed the farm, ultimately got an offer, got an accepted offer. So we're kind of moving towards the closing table of spring of 2021. And I kind of thought to myself, you know, I'm gonna go walk around this property one last time before the farm closes. We're March of 2021, shed season, just gonna walk around, have a good time. It was nice out. So I'm walking around, kind of looking for sheds, just wandering, and all of a sudden I just catch a glimmer of what I thought looked to be a shed about 50 yards away. So I pulled out my binoculars and I looked and I was like, I think that is a shed, but all you could see are just tips, right? So it was something that you could only see just a little bit of. So I start walking closer, kept putting up my binoculars. I couldn't wait to see what it was. And then I see some more tips of antlers coming up through the grass. And I was like, oh, you know, it must be a dead buck laying there. And, you know, we get closer, and I'm like, this thing's got a pretty good frame. I said, this thing could be pretty nice. So as I'm walking up to it, literally all you could see was an inch or two of each tine through the grass. So it was gonna be a complete mystery, a complete surprise of what was underneath the grass, because the grass had grown up through the skull, through the antlers and everything. So I bend down and I try grabbing onto it, but it's tangled in the grass, so it doesn't want to come. So I pull harder.
Boys, I'm not gonna lie. This one looks like a good one. It's a deadhead. Boys, it's a giant.
And all of a sudden I pull this out of the grass, and what a complete surprise. You don't ever think you're gonna pull a 200 class whitetail out of the grass in this immaculate of condition. So the grass had completely preserved this animal, this head. As you guys can see, it's in pristine shape. So I was trying to think, immediately when I pulled it out of the grass, I was like, this is that buck I got a picture of that was taken. The picture was taken only 150 yards away in this kid's backyard, but nobody had ever seen this buck. And it had been 2 years since we had heard anything about this buck. So I was like, could it be? And in my head, I was like, I know this is that deer. He blew up, right? So I immediately circled around to that. Called DNR officer, called the sheriff so I could be completely legal with this, got a salvage tag with it. And then I took it and I hadn't heard anything about this deer. Nobody knew who this deer was. A 200-inch deer, you'd think the whole town, everybody would know of this deer, but nobody did. And, roll around to January of 2022, this story has been going on 6 years now. And I get a call from Ken asking me if I had found a 200 class deer. And I said, yes, I did. And we kind of just started putting our stories together of this immaculate whitetail. And now we have 3 years, of antlers of this deer to see how much he's grown, each year. And Ken will kind of let you go into that because he scored all these antlers and how much this buck has grown, throughout the years of you watching him.
It was really exciting when I started digging into this story after that tip from a friend. I called one of my buddies who had some property over in that area, and I said, do you know anything about who the realtor is and who might have this buck and so on? And he fired back this picture of the officer holding this deer, and I immediately recognized him and I got super excited. And I didn't act on it quite right away, but one Saturday then I finally got a phone number from that guy, and I just called Riley right away, and we talked for a long time and just started sharing stories about it. And he was kind enough to agree to bring him down, and we'd swap stories and just compare notes and see where this should go. So one of the things that we've done since we got all these antlers from different years. We scored the 2016 shed antler and figured that he was just over about 160. He was a 160 class buck that year. The 2017 shed antler is very heavy and in beautiful condition, and did some calculations and figured that he was about a 185 deer that year. And of course we could score this deadhead, and the measurements on him are amazing, from 7-inch H measurements, 6 inches around the bases. I mean, there's just so much mass. It's so heavy, and it was just super exciting to see what he really had bloomed into. I don't have food plots. He's just got Iowa corn to eat, but he did really well with it.
Not very often do you find a deer with over 100 inches on one side of it.
That's exactly right, and that's what this deer has. He's got so much going on, this brow tine. I mean, that's just massive. There are a couple of questions that still kind of hang on. Did somebody get an arrow into this deer and never recover him but injured him? I don't know. Did he get hit on the highway? I think that's a possibility, but he didn't appear to have broken leg or anything on those other videos, those last videos I got of him. But he definitely was not feeling well. So did he get sick and just die from a disease? I think that's a possibility too.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked a good bit about what we think the age of this deer is. And the 2016, with the pictures that we've got, we feel certain that he was 4.5, 5.5 in 2017, and 6.5 years old when he died.
If only we could have seen when he was going to be 7.5.
I know. I just want to thank Riley for helping tell this story. If he hadn't found that deer, I wouldn't have this story, and it just really brings it full circle, and I'm super excited. I'm glad I could add to it with the 2017 shed and all the videos that I've got, so it's been great.
Absolutely, I appreciate the opportunity, Ken. Like I said, there's a lot of history with this deer, a lot of pieces of the puzzle that came together with just us talking, 2016, 17, 18 to him disappearing, and then all of a sudden me stumbling upon him in 2021. There's just a lot of missing pieces that we kind of put together on the puzzle, and I just think it's an awesome story to bring together for
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things that was so satisfying to me was that I only have 17 acres, but I have permission from some of the farms around, but that was his core, that was his home, and that's exciting for me that this caliber of deer could be close by.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was, in a way, it was kind of humbling, and it was just a real privilege to be able to hunt this deer.
Not very often do you get the opportunity, at a 200-inch whitetail.
That's right.
Free range.
Yeah.
He lived a crazy life, living close to a big highway. Like we said, he could have got hit by a car, and making it to that age and that potential, without very many people knowing about him, is a true testament to what these deer can do. When they get up in that age.
So, rest in peace, Louis the Great.